Earth is home to many creatures. Some may even consider a few of them monsters. But what of those more elusive and hidden creatures? The ones we just can't seem to find. Welcome to Monday Morning Monsters. Cryptozoologist and paranormal researcher Barnaby Jones talks about the unknown, mythical, undiscovered, and unidentified creatures from around the world, and the people who have seen them, look for them, and research them. Hear from witnesses about their encounters, as well as renowned names in the field about their work and research. Barnaby is the founder and lead investigator for Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society based in Wisconsin. CAPS travels across Wisconsin and beyond looking for connections between different phenomena and how they can all be connected. Now, your host of Monday Morning Monsters, Barnaby Jones.
Happy Halloween, monsters! It is a beautiful Halloween here. We have an amazing show and a lot of great guests here on today's show. We're going to have a couple other ones possibly popping in throughout today's episode. So, I want to get right into things today. We have a lot to go over, and hopefully you guys have a lot of questions. So, this is a panel. So, that means that if anybody has any questions for any of the guests here today, feel free to leave your questions on the platform of your choice. We'll pull them up on the screen and our whole group can address them, or you can address your questions directly to a specific person on the panel. So, with no further ado, first of all, thanks for all of my guests for being here today. I think we have an amazing group of people, and it's going to cover everything from cryptids to paranormal, lake monsters, everything. So I'm going to bring them in here one by one and have them introduce themselves as well as talk a little bit about themselves. So up first is Rich Mayer. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
So I'm Rich Meyer. I'm the founder and lead investigator of the Upper Peninsula Bigfoot Sasquatch Research Organization. We also are in the works at building a Bigfoot museum, and we have the UP Bigfoot conference that we try to run every year. So we're located, well, I'm located in Hermansville, but I've got investigators throughout the entire UP and parts of Lower Michigan.
Awesome. So a lot of Bigfoot stuff going on for you.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Cool. All right. Up next is Tobias Wayland. Hey, Tobias, how are you doing?
Hey, great. Happy Halloween. So I am the head writer and editor and lead investigator for the Singular Fortean Society. And a little bit about us. If people aren't familiar with the term Fortean, it does explain a lot about how we do what we do. And the word Fortean comes from Charles Fort, who was an early 20th century collector of weird news stories. And he would collect these weird news stories from all over the world. And they covered a variety of weird subjects, everything from, strange rains of frogs to lights in the sky. And he would sort of tongue-in-cheek examine these weird stories and try to find connections. And so that's very similar to how we approach things here at the Singular Fortean Society, in that we don't specialize in any one area of the paranormal. We actually like to examine all of it, thinking that by doing so, we might understand the big picture just a little bit better.
Awesome. So you got a lot. You do your own research, and you get a lot of comments from other people sending you reports and stuff throughout the whole state and around the country as well, right?
Yeah. I write articles, news articles about whatever's going on in terms of paranormal news. But yeah, we get personal experience reports from folks. We do field investigation. I've written a couple books based on that. So yeah, I mean, we try to cover it all. Certainly the reason I got into this is to help people, frankly, because growing up, I had a series of ongoing, really anomalous experiences. And, one of the things that really helped me was just sort of knowing that there were people out there who took this stuff seriously. And so, you know, I like to bring that approach to working with witnesses, because honestly, you know, I think everybody here knows that it's very difficult to get any kind of concrete answers for people, but often just being heard, you know, is more than enough to make them, you know, feel better. Because fundamentally, I think that's what most people want is to be heard.
Awesome. Well said, man. All right. Up next, the very first guest on our show and the first person to make a second appearance, Miss Shitan Noir. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. Happy Halloween.
So, Shitan, I know you've been on the show again or already, but tell everybody again what you do, where you're from, all kinds of stuff about you.
So I am in Michigan, and I am the owner of Squatch GQ Publications. So we cover all things cryptozoology, paranormal, ufology, but I also have a magazine on dinosaurs and prehistoric creatures. So between that, doing presentations for library, podcasts, paranormal conferences, and traveling, that's pretty much all I do. And sometimes I sleep. So I'm usually writing, researching, or resting. The 3 R's of being a cryptozoologist, paranormal investigator, and a citizen scientist with paleontology.
Awesome. So you do the wide spectrum of everything from lake monsters, sea creatures, Bigfoot, Dogman,
Oh yeah,
paranormal, all kinds of stuff.
yep.
So we got all kinds of stuff going on there with you. And our next guest is not ready. I'm not sure what she's doing. We'll get our last one in here when she gets situated, I guess. You ready? Are you ready? All right. Our last guest here so far. We got, like I said, a couple more that might pop in throughout the show. Our next guest here is Mary Sutherland. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
And how some of my favorite people going along with the show today. Yeah, hi Tobias.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. How are you doing?
We're doing good.
That's
Good.
good.
It's good to see you, Mary, as
Well,
always.
Thank you very much.
So, Mary, all of us obviously should probably be familiar with you, but for the listeners and stuff out there, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what you've been up to.
Wow. Well, I haven't been really up to a lot lately, because my husband, died of cancer, last year, and I've just been
Oh,
kind of trying to pull things back around to some sort of normalcy. And, as always, Bigfoot pulls me through. I don't know what it is about Bigfoot, but I watch shows on him every night. And then, of course, I go out there, in the woods and visit with them. As you know very well, that we do have a Bigfoot out in the woods in Burlington, Wisconsin. And you've had an encounter. We had... what was it? You had that heat sensor, right? Or the heat
FLIR.
camera. Yeah, and we heard something up in the top of area of those woods, and you pulled out that camera, and we got a heat signature. So I was pretty happy over that. So basically, I'm a writer. I've got I think maybe 13 books out right now. And I'm working I'm actually working on 2 books. One is one on Bigfoot, and it will be coming out soon. And then I'm doing a reprint of Living in the Light, Believe in the Magic. So because that's been out of print for a couple of years now, and it's still in heavy demand. Let's see, I used to have the Sci-Fi Cafe for, I think, 12 years. And we used to do conferences there where we pull all you guys together. I think but a few of you have been to the conferences. So I'm a writer. I'm a hands-on researcher. I have my website, burlingtonnews.net. And, you can go in there, and I have my own search engine, so you can just type in whatever, Bigfoot, ancient man, whatever. It seems like I kind of tap into just about everything a person can imagine. And it's a fairly big website. And of course, I have my Facebook sites, and so that I can keep up to everybody on a daily basis. I like to not only be a hands-on researcher, but I also like to be a hands-on with my followers. So I'm usually there. So if you have any questions, I always answer back. I also have an online store selling UFO and paranormal merchandise. What am I missing here? Right. I don't
You're
know.
supposed to do the tours?
Yeah. Thank you. one of the hottest issues too, huh? Like I said, I kind of fell back on that just a little bit because I'm still in that healing process with the loss of my husband. But I'm planning on doing, maybe a couple tours yet this year in November, if weather holds out. And that's very, very popular. And I'm also a psychic photographer. I'm able to, with my camera, I'm able to photograph the invisible world, as I call it, where we photograph people actually they're leaving their physical bodies in an etheric form and going into the other dimensions. And, it's basically to educate people on other dimensions and traveling in other dimensions, and kind of giving people an idea, or a real belief that there is life on the, after death. So I think that's about it.
That's quite a lot. I think you're even busier than me there, Mary.
well, the day is not over yet.
Awesome. Very cool. So you cover everything from fairy mythology to legends and lore and cryptids and paranormal, astral projection, all kinds of stuff.
Everything you can think of.
Absolutely.
Everything that's not normal.
That's a very big umbrella right there. So I think we have, we're supposed to have one more guest that's going to try and pop in that's more situated on the Dogman stuff. But like I said, I mentioned earlier to my guest that he is got called into work. He trains dogs, I think, for either military or police. And so if he gets a chance, we'll bring him on here as well. But I am very satisfied with the group of people that we have here. I think we can cover almost any question from paranormal to cryptozoology, astral projection, anything that you have questions on. So with that being said, I want to remind everyone, please leave comments in the comments section if you guys have any questions for any of our guests on any topic that you can think of, not just cryptozoology, but paranormal, metaphysical, supernatural, Bigfoot, Dogman, sea creatures, anything. Dinosaurs even we can talk about.
Yes.
All right, so until we get some questions rolling in over there, I pose a question to each of you. I know that you all have, your own research areas and stuff that you guys cover in that. So I want to know, what is the most recent report, sighting, or anything that you guys have gotten? I'll tell you mine. My team has just recently got a report out of the Rhinelander, Wisconsin area of a hunter that was out in the woods, and he was up in his tree stand, or he went to put up his tree stand, and the tree stand was ripped off the tree, and his tent and stuff had been like demolished and that, and he found really large footprints out there. So that's my developing story up there. That was from about a week or so ago, or 2 weeks ago. And so that's up by the Rhinelander, Wisconsin area. So Rich, what do you got for us?
Within the last month, I had a person contact me about howls and whoops as they were coming out of their deer stand. We put it right up on our Facebook page, and then I was asked to take it down by the landowners. So they just didn't want people driving by at all hours to take care of it. But it's within 5 miles of another report that was taken a year ago, where coyote hunters saw a creature stand, look at them, they pull their gun up, it would crouch back down. They put the gun down, it'd stand back up. So that's an ongoing investigation that we're doing now. I'm trying.
Where was that?
That is near Hermansville and that area of Michigan. It's
Okay. Thanks.
roughly 7 miles from the Menominee River.
I will add to your thing. I am familiar with that because I got the location before you took it down.
Yep.
But it is within 20 miles of a few reports that I have as well.
Okay.
From south of that. So, and that's right by the hiding adventure up there where we go. So that area definitely does have stuff.
Yeah, that whole river basin is a corridor. So
awesome. Tobias, what do you got for us? You got all kinds of weird stuff.
While you were talking, I was like, I better look at my email because we get so many reports, like so many. The last one that I got up as an article this was actually a pretty interesting one. Maybe I'll just delve into that a little bit. There was a woman with whom I spoke who had seen two unusual like wolf-like creatures in Madison, Wisconsin. And so basically she was driving home one night, and it was it was pretty late because at the time she was a shot girl at a bar out in some prairie, and so it was maybe 2:30 in the morning, and she's driving home, and she sees crossing the street ahead of her in the this populated area. It's on like the west side of Madison. She sees what looked like almost two-dimensional projections of these wolf creatures. It was hard to describe. Let me see if I can get her actual description of these things. See, yeah, okay, here we go. It was like two dogs side by side, but they were huge, bigger than a wolf, more like a bear, a solid white silver color, but their features were entirely there. It was closer to an outline and a shadow. It appeared almost like a projection that scanned right to left across the street in a flash. I don't remember their feet touching the ground. They didn't move normally. It was like a blip in reality, or they briefly appeared running in another dimension and bled through to the street in front of me. So, on the surface, when she first contacted us, it seemed like an out of place animal, sort of maybe cryptid sighting or something similar. But by her description of these events, it's almost certainly something much weirder, right? It actually reminded me of there were a couple of weird animal sightings that we got a few years ago here, where the first witness described this effect as she's looking at this animal, and it's some sort of weird chimera creature that has qualities of several different animals, and so she can't really place what it is. And she said as she was looking at it, this thing became almost pixelated. Like the harder she looked at it, the more difficult it was to actually see, which I thought was really interesting. And so that's, this is sort of the latest in a string of bizarre animal sightings where they just seem to have some strange paranormal element to them, at least as described by these witnesses.
Fascinating. I want to come back to that if we don't have any other questions, kind of on that topic of these two-dimensional creatures and that. So if everyone wants to keep that in the back of your mind. Shitan, what do you got for us?
So the most interesting report that I've been getting, and I have a third one on this creature, is a creature that I call the Beast of Old 21, but he's showing up on different rural highways here in Michigan. And I've gotten a report from him from lower Traverse City area, from the Midland area, and then also over on the west side of the state near the Luther area. So it's not a dogman and it's not a Bigfoot, but they describe this creature as being the size and color of a camel, but it has a fox-like tail, little tiny fox-like ears, It travels on all four. It is a very big animal, and it has kind of like a loping gallop when it crosses the road, where it only, if it's a 2-lane highway, they see it on the side of the road, then it hits the middle of the road, then it hits the other side of the road, and then it's gone. And by the time they get to where it's crossed the road, they can't see this creature off to the side of the road. It just completely disappears. And I've gotten 3 of these reports now from 3 separate people, 2 of whom I've met in person, and one who sent me an email about it. So that is the one that I am currently investigating, because really it doesn't really fall into any known cryptid categories, but I certainly know that we don't have any camels running loose that have fox-like ears and a fox-like tail and a strange looking head, where it's not a camel type head. It's more of a almost like a Bigfoot head, but it has ears. So this is a interesting creature that I don't really tell people about, because I want to kind of preserve the first 2 reports and see what people bring to me. But that is the current one that I am working on.
That is very interesting. It almost kind of sounds like a moose, but
no, the way that they describe it, so it's the size of a camel and that camel color, but shaped kind of like a bear, and has these fox-like ears, because the one key element that sticks out is they say that the ears are very comical looking. Like, no, a creature that big should not have ears that tiny. And then it has this fox-like tail, but they say the way that it moves, it's literally like it leaps across the road, and people have seen it on 3 different accounts, and they all describe this creature as being just very it's descript, but it's indescript, because they can't tell me what exactly it is. And they say, but it's huge, and we get out, we look for tracks, we come back, we look for tracks, we never find any tracks, we never see the creature running out across the field. It just suddenly appears on the side of the road and gives you about 50 feet in between, itself and you as it crosses the road, and then it's gone off on the other side.
Boy, I don't know what to make of that either. That is
so I just call it the beast of old 21, or old 127, because that's where he was first. That's where the first report came from.
And obviously you haven't, like you said, you haven't talked about it too much, so your 3 witnesses don't know about the other accounts.
No.
Yeah. Very interesting. Cool. Mary Sutherland, what have you got for us?
Okay. First of all, that's in response to that, the veil is getting so thin that I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of different strange type of animals come, or even people coming through the veil, and showing themselves, on, to us. I think that as far as all of this concerning crypto is that we have just scratched the surface. We haven't even begun to understand all the things that's in these other worlds, other dimensions, that are coming through right now. But it sure does make for an exciting story, and if you're fortunate enough to actually have experienced it, it changes your entire life. I guess one of the stories I'd like to share is when I was living in Burlington, in Racine County and Walworth County there, I used to work a lot with, I had a lot of friends that were, working for, the sheriff's department. And they would share their stories with me that they would never share with anybody else, because of their job and credibility. But there was this one, we'll just call him Paul. He's retired now. Him and his wife were both deputy sheriffs. But anyhow, Paul was on duty going past Bong. It was in the wintertime, snow on the ground. And as he was going through or past, he saw a Bigfoot. So he goes up, turns around, comes back because he's an avid Bigfoot hunter too. And so anyhow, he's parked the car, jumped over the fence, into the field. And by that time, the Bigfoot was gone, but he's found the prints. So he was following the prints, and lo and behold, like so many people tell us, the prints just disappeared. There was no continuation of the prints. And he looked all around, looking for more prints, and he looked in the woods, various places, trying to pick up some, more tracks so that he could continue following it or tracking it down. But that was it. Just that one line of prints, and then boom, just done. And so it kind of leads one to believe that they do have some sort of ability or knowledge even to be able to go into another dimension, maybe possibly through a portal or something like that. In one of my books, I do write about that at one point in time, and I still think that there's still a few tribes that may still practice this, but the Native American people at some point in time with these various tribes actually had the knowledge to be able to make themselves invisible. But of course, that knowledge has been lost for quite some time, except for maybe one or two tribes out there. So, I think that we need to kind of keep our eyes and mind open and listen to all stories coming in, because, like I said, we've just scratched the surface of, what is really going on in our world, And then, let's see, another good story would be one time we were up into the what we call the haunted woods in Burlington, and I was rushed by a Bigfoot. He was about 8 foot tall, and he came off the top of the hill, and he was, screaming, and and he was at a full rush, and then he got about maybe, I don't know, about 20 foot from me, stopped, and kind of veered off to the left and behind some brush and just totally disappeared. And what happened there was I had asked a few, well, for one thing, I couldn't move. So, I mean, I became like paralyzed. I could see what was going on, but I couldn't use my mouth. I couldn't yell. I couldn't move. I just, so anyhow, as soon as I was able to, I said, "Oh my God, did you see that Bigfoot?" Because I had some people with us, and they said, "Yeah." Some of them said no, others said yeah. And then later on, as we were going out of the woods, we spotted 2 Bigfoot. It looked like 2 adults and a couple children. And then so the next day, what we did is we went back up in the woods, and I was able to find and photograph an area where the Bigfoot had been sitting. So we got a butt print, and then I found broken limbs, where he had grabbed onto them as he was running down the hill, and then as we were going out, apparently the night before there was another Bigfoot there, and he had, and we found his prints standing like right at the entrance or the exit of where we go into the woods. And we measured out that footprint, and that was 18 inches. And we must have walked right by him and never saw him as we were going home. So anyhow, those are just a few of the stories I have, and the Bigfoot are out there. you know. And like I said, if you're lucky enough to see one, experience, it does definitely change your life.
Definitely. All right. Well, we do have a question over there. We need to pause for station identification and commercial break here. So after we come back, there will be more with Rich, Tobias, Sheetan, and Mary. Get your questions in for our awesome panel of guests here. Anything cryptozoology, paranormal, dinosaur related, anything you want to know. There's somebody on the panel that has some knowledge on it. So anything that you want to ask, put it in the comments, and we'll get to it right after this break.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive.
All right, guys, we are back here on our live cryptozoology panel special for Halloween. Our guests today, Rich, Tobias, Mary Sutherland, and Sheetan Noir. And we have a question over here. I want to say special, we just had the commercial for Stephanie Lynn. Stephanie is the host of Chat with Charlie here on WLTK-DB radio as well. She is awesome. We just got a chance to work with her on our live paranormal investigation this past weekend. So if you haven't checked that out, it's on our the CAPS YouTube page, CAPS or Wisconsin CAPS on YouTube, and you can go watch Stephanie in action. And Stephanie has a question. She is our first question of the day here. Speaking of galloping creatures crossing the roads, have any of you dealt with experiences where people see a shadow type figure that runs on all fours but is very large, like a dog or a wolf-like? Rich, take it away.
I haven't personally dealt with it, but the medium that works very closely with me, she said in the powers area, she sees that quite a bit. She tends not to take on a whole lot of research there because of the feeling she gets from it. So usually if she does, she wants someone there that's a good friend with her, someone that can help pull her back out of something if she gets involved too far.
Interesting. Tobias?
No, I'm struggling to think of something that really fits that description. I mean, the closest personal report I think that we've received was a gentleman out of Indiana who reported seeing a shadow person that could turn into a large cat, basically. But really nothing specifically wolf-like.
Sheetan?
That makes me think of like the black shuck or like a hellhound, which, depend on your cultural belief, takes on different meanings. But from my research, I have not personally dealt with anything like that. But with all the written research that I do, that's definitely something that I've come across in reports and in different experiences from around the world, is these shadowy canine type creatures that basically you'd either call a black shuck or a hellhound. And people report them either seeing them with a hag type person, and that's usually a omen of death, or as just a guardian spirit. here in Michigan, we have a similar type creature called a witchy wolf, which is a supernatural creature. And mostly when you interact with them, if you do interact with them, it's because you've come across a very old Native American burial ground or a homestead cemetery or something of that nature, and they're trying to keep people away from the area. So that would be about the closest I would have is the witchy wolves.
Mary, what do you got on this topic?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, it could be so many different things. One, it could be, well, first thing I think of is, like if you get close to like where the veil is and you get too close, sometimes on the other side, they see us like a ghost. And then if they're too close to the veil, we see them as a shadowy figure. So it could be something, maybe a portal area right there, where, or multiple portal areas, windows into the other dimensions that these people have come across and seen these creatures. It could be creatures. It could actually even be humans. It's. I remember this one guy. He was also another deputy sheriff, and he was coming back from Milwaukee, and he was on the interstate there, and like I said, he was with his family, and it was kind of evening or getting evening, and anyhow, he seen something in the sky coming down or descending, and it was a thunderbird, and it was huge. He pulled off the road to watch it, him and his family. But he told me the second strangest part from seeing the thunderbird is it seemed like nobody else saw it. Everybody that was in front of him, or behind it and then going in front of him, nobody ever hit their brakes. He was the only one and his family that saw it. So sometimes it's things, sometimes because of our vision and how our brain takes in things, some people will see certain things where other people right standing in the same spot will never see what they're seeing. And it even works so with I dealt with Dr. Bruce Cornett when he was doing some work up there in New York on a lot of UFO sightings there. And he said that they would set up their cameras because they knew when these UFOs were coming. It was up there by Pine Bush. And the cameras, they would be setting up, looking same direction. He says one of the cameras would show the UFOs, another one wouldn't even show it. Thus, it didn't see it. However you want to explain what a camera does, but it just didn't focus and register UFOs. So, why some people see these shadowy figures. I've listened a lot to my friend Heidi Hollis talk about these shadowy characters actually coming into people's bedrooms, and going through their going through their dressers, and then when somebody spots them, they just like disappear. There's, I don't know. What are you going to say? I mean, there's so many different possibilities, and I could be wrong on any one of them or all of them. Maybe there's another answer out there that one of your panel has or one of the listeners has.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about it, because each of us comes from a little bit different background. We all have different information. We've all researched different things, and that's none of us has 100% the correct answer, but it's always fun having a discussion and talking about it. And
Well, it opens up our minds, to the other possibilities.
I would like to go back to Tobias here for a minute. And I know, like, I follow a lot of your Singular Fortean Society research and the reports that you put out. You have a lot of, well, I don't want to say like a lot, but you have a few, as well as Linda Godfrey has a few stories of these wolves and other creatures like the Beast of Bray Road and stuff that appear to be two-dimensional. Like even what you were talking about with your report that we were talking about at the beginning of the show here. So how many of these reports are you taking? Does this seem to be a common thing? Or, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, first off, let me add one more to Sheetan's excellent list of black dog folklore. There's also the Irish puka, which is said to be able to transform into a large black dog. But then, which is more of like a malicious trickster spirit or fairy.
Yeah.
Weird animals. I don't know that it is commonplace. I would say that certainly I think this string of reports represents a pattern. And it's difficult to say what that pattern is representative of, because one of the core elements of these sightings is this feeling of obfuscation, like something is being hidden from these witnesses, right? So, for instance, the other two reports we received were near Beloit, which is right on the Wisconsin-Illinois border, for anybody not familiar. And those reports, like really the hallmark of those witnesses' experiences was having difficulty discerning what this creature was, not because it was so alien to their experience necessarily, but because there seemed to be almost a deliberate attempt from the phenomenon to make it impossible for them to really understand what they were seeing. And so, I think that you get into so many different possibilities from that. You could say look at like screen memories, for instance. Anybody who's into UFOs or alien abduction or anything like that should be familiar with the idea of screen memories. That is to say, an implanted memory to cover up some other experience. And so, I have to wonder about that. I mean, specifically examining one of the Beloit witnesses' testimony, which, like I mentioned before, was that the more she tried to look at this thing, the more difficult it became to see. And one of the things that I left out in this more recent report was the witness. She said, because she really struggled to describe these wolf-like creatures, which is understandable. Most people, they don't have the vocabulary to describe what they're seeing, because who would? They're literally witnessing the impossible and left trying to explain that to somebody else, which is a very difficult undertaking. But once she had given it some thought, she came back to me and said that it was weird. It almost looked like they were like a child's drawing where a kid had drawn these wolves and then like taken their hand and kind of smeared the drawing somewhat. And so like I said, there's this level of obfuscation, I think, where whatever the underlying phenomenon is here, it's being sort of deliberately hidden. And whether or not that represents some entity that is deliberately trying to hide its appearance from someone, or the human mind just being frankly incapable of perceiving these things. I don't really know, but I think it is very, very curious.
That's
Yeah,
a very good point.
Rich, I was just going to come back to you. I see. I was going to ask you about, we're talking about, like I said, Linda Godfrey has these stories of the dog man that is like two-dimensional. Tobias has a couple other reports, and I was just thinking while we were talking here, I've also heard on Dogman Encounters Radio a couple of these reports, and it seems to me like these things are just like always dog men appear to be the two-dimensional. So I see your comment over here. Do you think, or have you ever received any two-dimensional Bigfoots? And on that, you can take it to where we're going with this.
Two-dimensional, no. Everything I've gotten Bigfoot and Dogman wise myself has always been three-dimensional. That's the guy that I have up in Negaunee area that's got 23 years of experiences with dogmen in one certain area. He's always said they were three-dimensional, always there, always have the pointy ears, always have the snout. He's had them pace his car at 50 miles an hour down dirt roads. He's had them just stand under large white oaks or white pines with lightning behind them, and he silhouettes them on the top. But you can always tell they're three-dimensional. The closest thing to two-dimensional would be that shimmer look or that predator look from the old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Predator, where it kind of distorts everything behind it and you can see through it, but you can still see its basic shape. I've had that happen to me in the woods before. It was before I started to research Bigfoot. I hunted in a place in Bark River, and every time I hunted this one spot, I would see something come walking in, sit down, lean up against a tree, and then it would just be there. I never walked over to check it out. I always thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But now the more getting into researching Bigfoot and Dogman and everything else that goes along with it, I've decided, okay, that's not a fake memory I have. That's something that happened. So
on that note, there's a lot of creatures in the animal kingdom, with like the chameleons, the octopus, stuff like that can change colors and mimic its surroundings and stuff. So when we're talking about these Bigfoots being able to either like cloak or shimmer or these types of situations, and a lot of times people's minds go to the fact that this is paranormal or supernatural and stuff, when it may not be, because we just don't know. We don't have one of these creatures to study. So is it possible that these things are just, being able to bend light around them? There was some research with the hair of the Bigfoots that supposedly it can like bend light or something, and they can, move a certain way, or, like how dogs put their hair up when they're, emotional or see something and stuff like that. So maybe, is it possible these creatures can just raise their hackles or something and allow the light to bend around them? Shitan, what do you got on this subject of two-dimensional cloaking?
I actually have a presentation that I do on this, and it's about the shape-shifting and natural capabilities of just everyday animals and how they blend in. So take, for instance, the basic moth. They can, blend themselves in with the paintwork on your house so that you don't even see them. But then you take animals like lions, tigers, cheetahs. They exist in the territories and environments that they exist in because they have adapted themselves to blend in perfectly with their surroundings. Case in point, I was up in Manistee last night and driving home, and driving my mom home, and as we were coming, across the UP, luckily I was paying attention because a doe just came wandering out on the road, and if it hadn't been for her eyes, she blended in perfectly with the blacktop. Because her coat was a dark grayish, color, and that was the color of the blacktop. So if it hadn't been that she had looked at me, I probably wouldn't have been able to slow down, swerve around her, and miss her, because she just blended in. And so if everyday natural species can do this, and we're, thinking that Bigfoot and dogmen are of a higher intelligence, similar to a human being, then of course these animals would have a capability of being able to camouflage themselves, cloak themselves in their natural environment. We as humans can do it. We have ghillie suits, we have camouflage clothing, we have different things that we can make it so that we can blend in to our surroundings. But a animal that lives there, like, that's their home. So I would 100% expect that they would have some type of natural behavior that would allow them to just blend in. You look at things like chameleons that can blend in with their surroundings just instantly. You look at the mimicry that squid can do, octopus can do, where they can basically take on the form of different aquatic creatures or the sand floor or whatever, so that, or coral reefs, they can blend in and you could be right next to them and not know they were there unless you knew what to look for, or if they blinked their eye or did something like that. So I think that it is 100% that these creatures, they know how to avoid human detection, and it's only on their choosing that we see them.
Definitely. We're going to get to Mary in just a second. I want to remind everyone that's watching out there, if you guys have any comments, questions, or anything for our panel here, feel free to shoot out a question. We're just kind of shooting between what we got going on here. But if you guys have a specific question or something you want to know about from any of our Bigfoot, Dogman, dinosaur, supernatural, astral projection, portals, anything from any of our panel here, feel free to leave it in the comments and we'll get to it as we go along. Mary, what are your thoughts on Bigfoot and two-dimensional and all that stuff?
Well, as I was listening to everybody, I was reminded of this one deputy sheriff that received, the station received a call about a UFO over this one person's house. And it was very, from how the man described it, very, very large. And it was just hovering over his house. So anyhow, she was the one that was told to go out and check it out, which apparently she wasn't too happy doing because she figured it was a hoax of some sort. But anyhow, she went out there, and when she pulled into the driveway and looked up into the sky, there was nothing, absolutely nothing there. So anyhow, she pulls in, parks the car, gets out, knocks at the door, and she just started going upstairs, and the man was standing there. And she said, she looked at the sky, and she said, "There's nothing here." And he says, "Come through the house with me, follow me." So she followed him through the house, out to the back door on the other side of the house, opened up the door, went outdoors, and he says, "Now look up." There it was. In its full glory. What happened? It was the light. Just a different, looking at it at a different angle with using light. They were able to become invisible, and so I'm thinking that I had heard someplace that our military now has scientists have discovered a way to make this certain paint that the military is using on some of their planes, where, like, when they're up in the sky and the sun hits them, or if they angle themselves in a certain way, they because of this paint, they become invisible to the eye of the beholder, I guess. So it's and then the Japanese also have those invisibility jackets, and that's based on the structure of these jackets, and how it can manipulate the light. And I think that the Bigfoot is it's kind of I think that how the hairs on the Bigfoot, I think somehow there's some sort of optics in there where they can actually manipulate, or they can move it in a certain way or something, and actually look invisible, even though they're still there. So, I mean, another possibility, or they're, who knows? Who knows?
You're absolutely right about the military and stuff. I was going to bring that up, and I'm glad that you got around to it for me here. But yeah, the military does have a similar device to like the Harry Potter invisibility cloak, and it's this fabric that they can make stuff out of. I mean, this is not made up or science fiction or anything. This is legit. You can look it up and see it. I mean, it's not obviously something you can go out and buy right now, but there's the technology has advanced that far. We have a question. I'll bring it up here.
Well, before you read the question, can I say,
Sure.
people want to look at these invisibility cloaks. They do have it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and you can you can make like a mirror kind of thing out of really easy plastic and stuff that bends light. There's like how-to videos about that as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Lenticular panels, they're called.
Thank you. Do you think that the way technology and cameras are evolving, that you will ever come across a photo of a Bigfoot that will prove the existence? So I know, like myself, I get asked a lot of these questions, why don't we have good pictures of them and stuff like that? And I think, in my opinion, there are a lot of good pictures of Bigfoot out there. But the problem is people are so afraid to come forward because, one, they don't want people on their property, two, they don't want to be ridiculed and stuff like that, that we're just not getting those pictures. And as far as to prove the existence, in my opinion, I don't think that a photo would prove that. I think you're going to need, more of a body at this point before science actually decides to, come forward and say that it's real. Rich, what do you think?
I think we're in that place where we need a body. I don't necessarily want to be the one that tries to bring that body in, but I think for science to accept it, we're going to need a body. I think with cameras and everything getting better, it's kind of a two-edged sword. The best pictures we have are on old technology 8mm film and on regular cameras that you had to develop film. The more and more we push in with technology and better cameras, it seems the harder and harder it is to get those pictures. I don't know if it's because they can see into the IR range so that they can see the pictures that take, or see the cameras that take pictures at night. I don't know if it's that they have more moving, buzzing parts inside of them, or the batteries have a smell that we can't smell, but they can. But most good quality trail cams, you'll see deer, fox, bear, everything else that walks right up to them and looks dead at them. It's not because it's a loud camera, but that's where I think we are on the whole picture idea of proof.
Tobias, what do you think?
I think if a photograph or a video was going to be enough, this would have been settled in 1967 with the Patterson-Gimlin film. I don't think that the standard of evidence for proving a species is it just doesn't add. I think that there is some very good photographic and video evidence out there already, probably quite a bit that we haven't seen yet. And I agree that the reasons for not seeing a lot of it are probably because of people wanting to have their privacy respected, which I absolutely understand. But yeah, I mean, fundamentally, if you want to talk about proving the existence of a Bigfoot, you got to be talking about a body, because I don't think anything else is going to do it, especially now that we're in the 21st century. And I think something that we deal with quite a bit is forgeries, like faked photos, which is very, very easy to do today. And even if you had a 100% legitimate close-up photograph of Bigfoot in excellent lighting, people are just going to say it's a CGI hoax anyway, or something similar. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you're going to have to bring a body or nothing at this point.
Well said. Sheetan, what is your take on this?
So, as Rich and Tobias both mentioned, the best evidence that we've collected today is the Patterson Gimlin film, which is on 8mm film. So it's not the question of the better technology on the cell phone camera. The question is the user themselves. And case in point, I have a friend who is developing a horse magazine, and I've been teaching her photography. And one of the things that I am teaching her is to set up the shot. Line up for the picture that you want to take a deep breath, take the picture. But when people are in a nervous state or they're in a panicked state, as in they're seeing a creature, even if it's something as mundane as a deer, you grab out that cell phone, you're trying to, get through the lock screen, get to the camera app, get it centered, take that picture, your hands are shaking, your breathing's uncontrolled, and that's how you get the blurred picture. So it's really not the camera's fault. It is user error. And when people realize that, then they realize that they have to go through that process of maintain eye contact with the creature, get your phone ready, know how your phone works. Because almost all of us use a cell phone with a camera on it. Line up that picture, take your deep breath, and snap the picture. Because when you take that deep breath, you calm yourself, and then you can get a decent quality picture that's not blurry. Otherwise, you are just chasing shadows, and you're just going to get blurry pictures because your body's shaking, your hands are shaking, and when your camera's doing one of these, then of course you're going to get a blurry picture. I do think that a body would help science, but the thing about a body is they can only collect the cold data. They will not be able to observe anything from personality, problem-solving skills, intelligence, any of that with a dead body. So I would very much like to see a live one caught and put in a very upscale zoo that we know that they are going to get excellent care and they are not going to be poked and probed and tortured with science experiments. That way, I think, if these are related to humans in any way, through any source of DNA or genetics, that is the respectful thing to do with the species of Bigfoots or Sasquatch, is to give them just as much respect as you would any other human being.
Interesting. I want to remind everyone we have a comment section. If you want to leave a comment over there and ask a question, feel free. Mary, what do you think about technology and getting pictures? And this is like everything from Bigfoot to anything at this point.
Well, for one thing, it's like when you go to, if you're a UFO researcher or if you've seen a UFO, you're supposed to report it. Anything unidentified, you're supposed to report. But you report, nobody pays any. The ones you're reporting it to, they really don't pay too much attention to it. Now, I'm not talking about just researchers like what we are. I'm talking about government, reporting centers. And the reason a lot of people, they'll say, call in and say, hey, I seen a UFO. Well, if they don't ask any questions or anything, it's like, yeah, we'll send somebody out. They never do. And I think that the same way with Bigfoot, people can send in reports saying whatever, they don't really take the report seriously with Dogfoot or anything like that. And I think that the reason is because they're not curious about it because they already know. They've had bodies, dead bodies, live bodies. I would doubt that they have live bodies in some sort of facility that they're that they're experimenting with, or observing or whatever. But I truly believe that they already know about it. They're just not telling us, and for practical reasons, like religion or reasons, for economic reasons. Uh, they don't want a bunch of people out there with all these guns, in these national forests, where all of us are walking about. They don't want people out there with gosh darn guns, trying to shoot a Bigfoot. It's just, to me, by going official with Bigfoot is real. Um, all it's going to do is create chaos. And I think that's what our government is trying to avoid, is this chaos. And of course, military, it's always a need to know basis anyhow, regardless, even if they're looking at a book. But for me, I kind of, I love photographing them. I love going out, in search of structures and footprints and things like that. I love it. But, if I see a Bigfoot or something, he's in his natural domain. That's where you're going to find, putting him in a zoo, he's not going to be in his natural habitat. He's going to be he would be like if you were out here in the home and, somebody came and took you out of your home and out of your yard and everything, away from your family, and threw you in a cage, no matter how big it is, your whole way of being would be different than it would be in your home, in neighborhood, around family and friends. So I totally disagree. I think the whole thing about, for me anyhow, the whole thing about researching Bigfoot is the fun of being able to get out into the woods. Whether I find a footprint or not, I'm enjoying the woods. And I'm learning from the woods, learning about the trees and the various plant life, there's so much to offer us with Bigfoot, just going out into the field and just experiencing him, her, and their children. But so I think it's going to be a sad day when the time comes that, all of a sudden a Bigfoot is found and either killed or murdered or put into a facility. It'll be a sad day, because we need mysteries. The fun of the hunt, is the mystery. It's not how many people are going to believe you. It's, you see something, you experience something, you share something with your friends, and look at it like some people are going to believe it, other people aren't going to believe it. It doesn't make any difference. You're still being able to participate in the mystery of the Bigfoot, dog man, or whoever, whatever. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. So I wanted to touch on some of the stuff that you guys have said. Going back to the whole camera technology thing in general, a lot of the sightings of these creatures, whatever you're talking about, Bigfoot, Dogman, anything, happen as roadside or road crossings, right? And the easiest way that you guys can get these pictures, this evidence and stuff, is to have a dash cam in your car.
Yeah.
I know Cliff Barrickman pounds this out every time somebody brings it out on his episodes of their show.
So does Doug Hijack.
Yeah. I mean, for $30 to $100, you can get a pretty basic dash cam. And I mean,
you can get them at Five Below for like 10 something, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And at least you have that evidence to back up your story. And I mean, it's not that nobody doesn't believe you or anything, but you have that evidence to show for your story. You have that evidence for your own sake and to share and to further this. So I want to encourage everyone to go out and get a trail camera. I'm sorry, a trail camera, a dash camera. On the zoo versus wild thing, I think where this would end up is if you got a body of one of these creatures, you would finally have the funding to go out and, Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey and go out in the wild and research these things where they live.
Yeah.
And we know where they are now, but we can't get the expeditions, the funding and stuff to go research them because nobody believes the credibility of these things. And if you had that body presented, we wouldn't need another body or to capture one or anything. We would get the funding that we need to send out the people into the wild and research them and see them in their natural habitats and stuff.
If the government isn't already doing it.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. And, like another thing is, when we were talking about the cloaking earlier and the Bigfoot, that this is possibly where they got the evidence for that. Mary, you talked a little bit about how, the mystery of these creatures and stuff, and going away when we found these things. And I wanted to point out the fact that you have Discovery Channel has an entire week every year dedicated to sharks.
Yes,
we know sharks exist. We know they're out there, and people still sit down for a week and watch, these documentaries and stuff about an animal that we know exists, and everyone knows it's out there. And the excitement and everything for these animals has not died down. And I think that, even gorillas, chimpanzees, when you're talking about the primate species and stuff, people love these animals. And I do not think that, Dogman, Bigfoot, Thunderbirds, any of these creatures, if they were proven 100% to exist, I don't think the mystery, the lore, the legend or anything would die down at all. In fact, it would probably increase it that, people would be more interested in it. But, as you said too, then more people are going to go out and try and hunt them, find them, and you do run into those more problems, which is one of the factors of why a lot of places don't, or a lot of people believe that we're not given that knowledge.
I was watching a Bigfoot show the other night, and on what is it? Tubi, TUBI. They have a lot of shows on Bigfoot, very interesting shows too. But they were brought up about putting Bigfoot on the endangered species, protection thing. And but they brought it up, and they made a good point. In order to get an animal or bird or whatever on endangered species list, they have to have a count.
Yeah.
And how are we going to count Bigfoot? Because they have to do it themselves. I mean, because the Bigfoot is so elusive, the Dogman is elusive too. There's it'd just be almost impossible, really.
And one last thing I wanted to post to everyone here about this stuff, and then we can move on to the next thing. We talked about reporting it. It is so important that, for anybody that has a sighting, has an experience and stuff, that you let people know, because, even if you don't want your name out there, obviously, Tobias, you can speak on that people don't want to, necessarily be known for this or whatever. They just want to tell somebody and get it out. But I want to go through each of us here, and, for whoever you like on the panel, I'm not advocating that you give information to one person or the other, but I want to go through and have everyone just tell the listeners and stuff out there how to get a hold of you and submit reports to you specifically. For Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, you can go to Wisconsin Caps, spell out Wisconsin, CAPS.com, and then right on the homepage is a big thing that says submit your report, and you can either put your name and stuff on it or submit it anonymously, and we can go from there. But just so that somebody has the information, Rich, where can people get a hold of you and send you reports?
The easiest way is through our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/UPBSRO. Or if you just type in Upper Peninsula Bigfoot, we usually pop up within the first one or two in Google for anybody. The other two Facebook pages are UP Bigfoot Conference and Midwest Bigfoot Experience. We'll take them through all of those. The email addresses are all linked back to one central email that me or any of the other investigators get. So if you're on the other end of the UP, it may not be me that reaches out. It might be another one, or if you're in Lower Michigan, one of those guys might reach out to you. but it comes to a group of us that are all engaged in research. So.
And where all do you cover? I think we need to go back over that. Where do you all cover for your stuff?
Myself, I cover anywhere from the central UP all the way over to Iron River. But as far as researchers go, it's the entire UP, a little bit into Wisconsin. Usually I try and find somebody that's a little more local to cover that side of the river. And then the lower part of Michigan, I've got a group of 5 investigators down there that are spread out that can cover most anything down there.
Very good. And CAPS covers all of Wisconsin and anything surrounding. If we have time and availability to go there, we'll cover pretty much anything in the state. And for everybody, I think this goes for anybody. If we can't help you with your situation, we all know a lot of people that we can send to you. So if you're in Wisconsin, you can send it to Rich. If you're in Upper Michigan, you can send it to me and I'll get it to Rich as well. So we share information as well. Tobias, where can people get you and send you reports?
Sure. So if you go to the Singular Fortean Society website, which is singularfortean.com, so SINGULARFORTEAN.com, you can go to our contact page. Otherwise, you can always just email us directly at info@singularfortean.com, or we are on every social media platform you can imagine. So you can always message us directly on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. We're on TikTok now. I don't know if you can do direct messages on there because I'm an old man and I don't personally use it, but if you can, then you can get a hold of us there.
Very good. And where do you cover for all your information?
Well, we get reports from all over the world. And so anybody anywhere should not hesitate to reach out to us. I don't necessarily, depending on the situation, we don't necessarily have to be present to help with a situation. It's living in an age of miracles like we do with vast amounts of information at our fingertips at all times. It's relatively easy for us to help people regardless of where they are. If you want me there in person, you should be somewhere around the Great Lakes. Think Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Those are the Kentucky. Like those are the states that we would frequent.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Sheetan, where can people send you reports and where do you cover?
So I am also on different social media platforms. So if you just type in my name, Sheetan Noir, ShetanNoir, you will find me on those different sites. You can send me your reports there. And I do cover worldwide, especially with the magazines. If people want to submit their reports for research purposes or for investigations, or so that they can share their experience in one of the magazines, then I will gladly take the story. You can also type, or on Facebook, you can find Squatch GQ Magazine and send me a message on there. I also have the Great Lakes Center for Unexplained Events and Phenomena, and I take reports there. I'm also the Michigan lead investigator for the North American Dogman Project, and I do take Dogman reports through that. I have the webpage, I have the Facebook page and group for that. So very easy to find. Just type in Sheetan Noir and send me your story, and I will start the process of researching it and investigating it.
Very good. Thank you very much. Mary Sutherland, how can we get a hold of you and where do you cover?
Well, I'm global. And basically, all you have to do is Google Mary Sutherland, and that'll pretty much pop up a lot of things. I have a YouTube channel. I have my Facebook sites. I have my website, which is one of the largest websites out there on the internet. It'll take a year to get through everything. So that's why I have my search engine. So all you have to do is go to Burlington. If you're interested in anything, you go to burlingtonnews.net. And I have my own search engine. You type in what you're looking for and click, and it'll pop up all my different web pages. I have a membership site too. And then I have, of course, all my books. I forgot to mention my most important book was The Red-Haired Giants. That's kind of the book that kind of got me out there for everybody to know. And so I'm an author, I'm a lecturer. And so you can get me if you go to burlingtonnews.net, there'll be like by information right there, by my email, my telephone number. Use the 608 number. The other one I've moved, so I have to change that number. So anyhow, or just send me some smoke signals. I'll find you. Oh, but what I do though is, as people, because I'm so busy, and so what people do is they contact me on everything. So I have my peoples that I know of that I trust, and that that, like, if you were interested in Dogman, I would have people that I would send, your information to, and put you with them, and so that you get the best service that way. And also, there was something else I wanted to say, but and then what I like to do is have, like, if somebody contacts me, like a messenger on Facebook, or wherever, I get their permission, and then I put it on my Facebook in my group there, where everyone can see what, if you had a UFO sighting, or if you got a question on Bigfoot or whatever, I like to put it out there so everybody can see it. And then that way we can expose more of the information, and there's more people that can participate. I really like the idea of having everybody working together, whether they're a top researcher or if they're, just a person interested, in the subject. I just like that information out there to share, and they can make comments back and forth. So anyhow, so it's kind of like with me, it's kind of hands-on, getting people to the right people, and then taking that information and getting it out to even more people. And I think that's about it. My email is bsutherland@wi.rr.com. And if you're interested in my books, just go to burlingtonnews.net and then /books, BOOKS. And I have a lot of books on spirituality, books on ancient man, on giants. I'm working on another book on the jinn. I'm very fascinated with the jinn, so I'm trying to get out a real nice book on that too, and hopefully have it colored. For people that want to know more about Bigfoot and our experiences and my thoughts on Bigfoot, you can go to my book site, and there I have books on Bigfoot. There's Revelation, there's Portals, and then what is it? I think it's Mysteries. I don't know, something like that. But anyhow, there's a description there. But I give my points of view, on a lot of that in my books, and along with the fact that I'm coming up with another book soon. So I think that's it. Mary Sutherland, burlingtonnews.net.
Awesome, guys. We're coming up towards the end of our show today. I want to make sure that everyone that has questions gets them in the comments section. We can go to them right away if you have any questions for any of our guests here today. I wanted to ask you guys about a particular spooky, perhaps, topic here. And it does still tie in with cryptids and a lot of that stuff. So the legend lore story that I want to talk about here is the woman in white. And these entities have been seen like as been described as like a woman who was killed on her wedding night, or have the bloody bride legends and stuff like that. But there's also fairy legends of the woman in white, or the guardian, the lady of the lake, the old hag of the lake and stuff. And she's also been described in Bigfoot mythology. A lot of people, back to the Ape Canyon incident and stuff, these gold mining or prospectors are out there in the woods, and they stumble across this woman in white who tells them where to go to find this mine or this, minerals or whatever. And that's how they stumbled upon this cabin or went to the cabin, whatever, and where they found these deposits and stuff. So you have this character. And I want to know, do you have any reports of this, for one? And as well as, do you think that this is simply an urban legend that keeps getting moved around? Or do you think that this is like an entity in its own right, like a dogman or something where it's a species? Are the woman in white not just a singular entity, but a perhaps like an alien race or an interdimensional race that's coming through in these different areas? So, Rich, what do you got as far as like Bigfoot and woman in white stories or anything?
I don't have any woman in white stories. But I haven't taken a report where anyone has mentioned seeing a woman in white or anything other than, there's been fairy lights that we've had and balls of glowing light, but that are associated in the same place as the Bigfoots, but nothing as far as a woman in white. So I don't discount it. I've read the Ape Canyon incident and I've heard it retold different times, and I think there's something to it. I just don't have anyone that's reported it to me yet.
And I'm glad you brought that up as well. In Fae mythology, there is the woman in white, as I said, who is supposedly travels with a large hairy man and these candelas or balls of light. And that kind of ties all three back together as well. So these lights, the Bigfoot and the woman in white, perhaps they're connected. Tobias, what do you got?
Sure. So, I've never received a credible report of that particular phenomenon, but it is something that you encounter in this field. You just can't not, honestly. And so there's even a local woman in white phantom hitchhiker story out of Forest Hill Cemetery in Madison. It's interesting. Often when you see the women in white in folklore, there'll be cautionary tales. So you'll have this story, like say in Mexican folklore, you've got La Llorona, and she's down by this river and she's looking for her kids that she killed. And if you happen to be a kid and you go down there, then she's going to drown you. So don't go down by the river, at night, which frankly is just good advice for kids. And so you see these stories in folklore act as warnings, because if you just tell a kid not to do something, that's the first thing that they're going to go do. But if you can, if you give them this story, you give them a good reason not to, you scare the crap out of them. And it's much more effective of a strategy. And so I think a lot of it, when you see it, is folklore, and it's mostly made up. But when you talk about somebody having a sort of credible sighting, like a real person you can really talk to who said they really saw this thing, right? Then I would wonder if we're getting more into the realm of a sort of trickster element with something sort of feeding off of human archetypes, right? Because the woman in white certainly is in archetypal figure in human culture, And so, I would suspect then that it's not actually a woman in white that you're dealing with, but something that wants you to think that it is. And it's probably doing that for a particular reason. I would assume that, maybe they would think that a woman in white would be seen as more innocent, more trustworthy, to give you some kind of information that they're trying to feed to you for whatever reason. And you'll, hopefully find it more believable and more actionable because you're more likely to trust that archetypal figure.
Very good. Sheetan, what do you think of the topic?
So I think, we have these classic tales like Resurrection Mary and, this ghostly woman walking alongside the road. You stop, pick her up, she disappears. And, these tales are much more common than what people, realize, kind of like the crybaby bridges and things of that nature. But one of the most interesting things that I find about these stories is no matter how many times you come across it, there's always a small grain of truth in there somewhere. So if you follow the story to its end and you do enough research, it might not be in that county, but a county over, there could have been a situation where a woman, we get different cases of the story. Either it's a murdered bride or a woman who was going to meet her lover at the bridge or at this certain location, and the lover never shows. So in great despair, they kill themselves. Or it's, a case that, uh, like with Resurrection Mary, she never made it home that night after dancing all night long at the hall. And that was her last, happiest moment, was dancing that night. So that's what she goes back to. And so if you research these stories, you will find that it generally does go back to a real living person, or an instant, an accident, or a event that happened that involved a person. And because after that, tragedy happens, somebody sees that ghost and they go and they tell other people. Well, suddenly everybody knows to look for that ghost on that road. And so when you see something, when a friend of a friend of a friend, or a cousin's, best friend's brother, has this experience, everybody talks about it. So then it becomes an urban legend and it expands from there. So to me, every myth, every legend, every story is worth researching, because you never know what it traces back to and the information that you're going to gain from it. So to me, even if it is an urban legend, even if it is a crybaby bridge story or a lady in white story, they are still fascinating, because, hey, I haven't heard that story yet. I want to hear it, because something might perk my interest in the story, and I'm going to want to go investigate that and trace it back to its origin and find out what really happened. Because sometimes the actual event itself, the history itself, is even more intriguing than what any urban legend created can actually be.
Very interesting. Yeah. Like you said, a lot of these things, whether it's true or not, somebody saw something, and that's
Right,
where this came from. We don't know what they saw, where it came from, or what, but people see something there. Otherwise, that legend wouldn't show up. People
right,
don't just drive down the road one day and say, "Hey, I think there might be a ghost here."
right.
Somebody saw something, and that led to it. That's the way all this stuff came about. Any of your stories of cryptids or urban legends or anything. Mary, what do you got on the woman in white stories associated with Bigfoot and legends?
Well, okay. For me, I look at it as these urban legends, and that as reality is based on the perspective of the observer. So it's like if and our thoughts create. I'm a very firm believer in that. And if you're thinking of, for example, if you're thinking about, let's say, a yellow Corvette, okay? Now you're thinking about that Corvette. Next thing you know, you're seeing a bunch of yellow cars, more yellow cars than anything else. Then very soon you start seeing yellow Corvettes, and it's like, wow, how the heck? But that's how. This is how magical our world is, and let's take like the tulpids. That would be a great show to do on tulpids, where mind creates. So your mind can actually create another being as you as you guys mentioned, you can somebody may say something about like seeing a lady in white standing next to a Bigfoot, and so they start the story. And then more people pick up on the story, more people and more people and more people. And then all of a sudden you've created like not so much an urban legend, but you can create like a tulpit itself, a real living being that you have pulled out of the etheric world and through your thoughts, and we're getting more and more and more people involved in your thought process on it. So I believe in fairies. I believe in ladies in white. I believe in Bigfoot, Dogman. I believe in it all until like where people say, well, you got to prove it to me first. I'm just the opposite. I will believe all this stuff until you can tell me different, because I know I understand a lot of how quantum physics works. I've studied a lot on that, and I understand that you can pull and create with your mind. So that's how I see it.
Very well put. All right, we are coming up on the end of the show here real quick. I want to do a really fast lightning round here with each of you. I'm going to give you a topic, a creature or something, and I want do you believe in it? Yes or no? And then I want to know
my answer.
Yeah, I know. I know. I was like, oh, you beat me to the punch here. I want to know yes or no. Do you believe in this thing, that it exists? And then I want you to kind of roughly categorize it. Do you think that it is a flesh and blood creature? Do you think that it is a paranormal creature? Do you think it's interdimensional? Or do you think that it's a species of like extraterrestrial or UFO? Or alien, I guess, not a UFO. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to go Rich, Tobias, Sheetan, Mary, same way. I'm not going to point to you. Just give me your answers as we go around. All right, so
Okay.
yes, no, flesh and blood, paranormal, interdimensional, or UFO extraterrestrial thing. All right, so Bigfoot, Rich.
Yes, flesh and blood.
Wow. Yes. And this is one of those questions. I know it's a lightning round, but like I don't have a firm belief, and I can't say that I have a firm belief because there's not enough evidence. I do think that there are enough reports that have enough unusual phenomena along with them that I'm hesitant to land solely in the flesh and blood camp. So if I have to pick something, I will pick interdimensional because somebody has to.
She did.
Yes, and flesh and blood.
Mary.
Yes. I believe that it's interdimensional, but when they come into our world, they become physical.
Awesome. All right, Rich, Dogman.
Yes, paranormal.
I'm going to agree 100%. Yes, paranormal.
Yes, interdimensional.
Mary?
Yes, and same interdimensional. Portals,
Rich.
physical.
Goat Man.
Yes, because I have an open mind, and I'm going to say paranormal.
Yeah, I mean, that's another one of those like physical impossibility ones. Yes,
Yeah.
and then I want to say paranormal, but also like I have a hard time drawing a distinction between paranormal and interdimensional. And so my answer to most of these would be like paranormal / interdimensional, if that works.
All right, Sheetan?
Yes, I do believe in them, and I think that they are paranormal, but also a thought form that has taken a physical body.
Mm-hmm.
Mary?
Yes, I would say more on the, like what you said, more on the order of a 12-point, okay, that you can create something. But also remember, our government's doing gene splicing right now. God only knows what they're coming up with,
Very Very good. Loch Ness monsters or C-type plesiosaur creatures, Rich?
Yes, flesh and blood.
Yeah, 100% on that one. Yes, flesh and blood for sure.
No, so really, Barnaby, like what you think I'm going to say, that's like the one that I lecture on the most is lake monsters. So yes, 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 triple yes. And I do believe that they are a natural occurring flesh and blood creature. The only thing that I would say is, but you have the amalgamations from Native American legends that are more of the lake dragons. So those I would say are thought forms, the Tobins. So yes, 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 yes.
Mary?
Yes, and I believe that like the Loch Ness and ones similar to that are using the underwater river systems in order to get into these deep lakes or what they call bottomless lakes, and for breeding purposes maybe, or for raising their babies to get to a certain age where they can take them, follow through the river systems back out into the ocean.
Very good. All right, Rich, Mothman.
Yes, interdimensional.
Obviously, yes. I've talked to too many people at this point who have seen something weird, and that's a tough one. I'm going to go with my combined paranormal / interdimensional category that I created myself.
Good. All right. She-Tan.
Yes, and interdimensional.
Mary?
Yes, and I'd go along with Tobias on that.
Okay. Rich, Chupacabra.
Yes, flesh and blood.
Nice.
I mean, what kind of chupacabra? Are we talking like the like Puerto Rican one, or are we talking the Southwest one that's probably a mangy dog of some kind?
There you go. Yeah.
Because
we're going to keep it the weirder one.
I'm going to go yes, extraterrestrial. North American one, like Southwestern, I'm going to say yes, flesh and blood.
Thank you very much, sir. She-Tan?
We've got reports of chupacabra here in Michigan, so I'm going to say yes, and they are creepy as FUCK. But I think that they are interdimensional.
Okay. Mary?
I agree with Tobias. Yes, flesh and blood.
Very cool. All right, Rich, here's a good one. Hodag.
Yes, and I'm gonna go interdimensional.
Ooh, all right. Tobias?
Or I mean, like we know for a fact that was a hoax. So I mean, I believe it exists as a fun bit of like culture. It's an interesting part of history, but I mean, it's not real.
All right. She-Tan?
So I have been to Rylander. I have taken pictures with the hodags. I have touched the hodags. So yes, in Rylander, Wisconsin, they are real, but they are made of concrete and paint. So I'm going to say, yes, they are a physical thing. Did they ever really live? Well, as different parts of different animals, they did. So that's my answer on that one.
Awesome. Mary?
I guess with that one, all I can say is reality is based on the perspective of the observer. I mean, if you want to believe it, but, you know, whatever, nothing's impossible.
Very good. All right, we have a couple left here, and I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. These are all animals that used to exist. I want to know if you think that they're still out there somewhere and could still have a breeding population. So first off, we have the thylacine. Rich?
Yes, I think they were. Actually, I know they were. And I believe Forrest Galante actually found proof of them as late as the 1960s. So I don't know why they couldn't still be out there.
Yes, I very, very sincerely hope so. You know, I've been covering sightings of those for years now, and I think there's a good chance. So sure.
She-Tan?
Yes, I think that they are still in their native territory. I think they've become just like the Bigfoots. I think they've become very, very good at being elusive to humans because they learned by experience and saw what humans were capable of. So now they hide. So I do think that they are still out there, and hopefully, they will be protected in the future when it is discovered that, there is a breeding population.
Awesome. Mary?
Yes, that's it.
I'm going to lump all these guys together. Mokelia membe and other flying reptiles. Do you think that those guys are still out there? I know Mokelia membe isn't a flying reptile, but any of those kind of reptilian dinosaur creatures. Rich, what do you think?
About a year ago, I'd have said no, but I've taken enough reports now that I have to say yes.
Very good. Tobias?
Yeah, same boat. I get a lot of pterosaur sightings, and so I'm going to say yes. People are seeing something. I don't think it represents an undiscovered animal species or anything, but they're definitely seeing something.
Shitan?
I would say yes. There's the potential for what we classified as extinct prehistoric creatures to still be on Earth today, because not every inch of the world or the oceans have been explored. And they haven't been explored all at once. And just like humans can move from place to place, so can animals. So just because it's not there in your front yard today doesn't mean it won't be in your backyard eating the turnips tomorrow.
Mary?
Okay. I was watching a documentary last night, and they said, according to the documentary, this scientist, whatever, said that only 30% of the United States alone, let's say 30% of North America alone has been touched by man, has been walked on by man. That leaves 70% that we have never really come in contact with, right here in North America. So, 70%, that's a large amount of land that we haven't even gone through yet. So, yeah, these animals, though, they could be there. They could be out there. I think India, don't they have a story about these flying serpents, flying snakes, or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to check into that again. Let's see, because it might not be India, but they come through like once a year, and they're real. So, maybe they glide. Huh?
Yeah, there is a species of snake that they do know glides from tree to tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they can go. It's quite a long distance that these serpents can glide through the air. But that is just like flying squirrels. Those are actual real creatures.
Yeah.
That live in our world today. So yes.
Yeah, and I remember when I was a kid, they said that was just a myth on the flying squirrels.
Mm-hmm. That's again like an example of animals moving into new territories. We never had pelicans up here in Appleton, Wisconsin, and Oshkosh and stuff, and now all of a sudden they're coming more and more south, or north in our state. So there's different animals moving all the time. All right, last one, guys. The woolly mammoth or the mastodon. You think they're still out there, Rich?
I don't think they're still out there. I
haven't heard any credible reports or anything, so I would say no.
When you consider that supposedly the last of the mammoths went extinct when the Great Pyramids were being built, that's not that far back in history, especially for a species to exist and perish. So I'm going to say it is possible, especially when they are now trying to clone them. So within the next 10 years, we might see woolly mammoths or mastodons showing up in zoos, because those will be very expensive animals to create. And the only way to offset that account is to put them somewhere where people will pay to see them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mary?
I actually have a wonderful story in one of my books about the woolly mammoth. And I think that they still exist. If you pay attention at all to inner Earth theories, you'll hear about that they have found, is it Antarctica? What's on top? Is
Alaska.
No, there's the Arctic and the Arctic. Okay.
Arctic is on top, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one. But anyhow, there's supposed to be an entrance to go down into the inner Earth. And in this one particular area, they have said that they have found woolly mammoth. So we'll see. I mean, everything's like it keeps repeating. Everything's possible.
Yep.
Not probable, but possible.
Exactly. I bring that up because we just did the hodag as well. And the hodag was supposedly had the trunk of an elephant when it was first reported. And some of the theories going back to lumberjack lore believe that they were seeing these mastodons or woolly mammoths, and that's where the legend of the hodag came from. So it's possible that these, northern lumber barons and stuff were seeing mastodons still. So
well, the Native Americans have stories about domesticating the woolly mammoth. For farming, plowing and that. And they claim that a lot of these plains that you see, where there's just no grass, there's grass, but there's no trees. It's been said that that's where, the Indians had pastured the woolly mammoth, and they just kind of pulled up the trees and ate whatever. But anyhow, that's a story out there. So I have it in my book, but yeah, I find them fascinating.
Amazing conversation, guys. I want to thank you all for being here and taking time out of your Halloween and doing this special presentation with us today. So real quick, tell people where they can find you. WisconsinCaps.com for me. Rich?
Facebook is the easiest place to find us at UPBSRO or Upper Peninsula Bigfoot Research Organization.
Tobias?
Sure. You can find the Singular Fortean Society at our website, singular40.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and TikTok.
Perfect.
And you're on my site too, on my Facebook, huh, Tobias? And you are too.
Sheethan, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook for Chatan Noir, Squatch GQ magazines, and you can find my books and magazines on Amazon if you type in either Chatan Noir or Squatch GQ magazine.
And Mary, where can we find you?
If I was you, I'd just go burlingtonnews.net or just Google Mary Sutherland. That way you can find my YouTube shows. And my archived BUFO radio shows as well.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Thank you all for being here. If you guys missed any of our amazing conversation, go back and check out the WLTK-DB radio app. You can listen to all your favorite shows on there from the WLTK-DB radio shows and all of our hosts. And you can listen to this show in its entirety with all of our guests on the Q&A panel that we had today. And you can also find it on YouTube, and you find links for it on WisconsinCaps.com. So again, Rich, Tobias, Chetan, Mary, thank you very much for being on the show today. It's been a real honor, and thank you all for being my friends and coming on and sharing Halloween with me.
You are
Happy
welcome.
Halloween.
Happy
Bye,
Halloween.
Barnabas.
Thanks, guys. And for everybody watching,
Bye.
we'll see you out there.
Catch you later.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB